Hey everyone, it's your boy ShawnTheWonder here again, and this time I'd like to talk to you about a pretty good article that Polygon released just a couple of days ago titled Gaming's Toxic Men. Now, this is a discussion that needs to happen a bit more often in gaming media. I see it every so often just in like game forums and such, but the media seems not like to talk too much about this subject. And so basically the article was detailing about the problematic men that seem to occupy the gaming space. We've seen this over the years numerous times. Like for instance, Anita Arkeesian is one of the people that they interviewed for this article. And if you remember back about, I think it was about five years ago, when she came up into YouTube and with her Feminist Frequency series about representation of women in gaming, and there were a lot of people harassing her over the internet for it. And that's just one example. Then I think a couple of years later, I think it was 2015 or maybe 2016, when Zoe Quinn was up in the media news for her video game that she had just finished making, claiming that she had slept around with a bunch of men just to get the positive reviews on her game. And as a title mentioned as the article mentioned, that you could have gone on the Kotaku's website and found that they didn't even have a review for her game on there. Yeah, but this is I'm more secluded and around the gaming space. Well, it comes to interacting with gamers in person, but yeah, in terms of around the internet, I do see a lot of vitriol towards women, people of color in the industry. Just like mentioning the idea of diversity in the gaming space brings up a lot of angry white men for some reason, and this article does touch on that a lot. Like, why is the gaming space so filled with these people who feel attacked or entitled about their games? And they do touch on that subject. Basically, what we learn is just that society as a whole sort of perpetuates the idea that a white man is the default, and then once you tell them that, once you're looking for there's a quote from there that says, equality seems like oppression to those with privilege, and which is a definite truth in that as well. That's something we've seen way too often just in politics in general in the United States. That's something people had to combat during the civil rights movement. That's something we're combating now in terms of Black Lives Matter and a bunch of other smaller, well, actually not so small things that women and people of color are dealing with in this nation. Now, back into how this all ties into gaming. Well, as we see, gaming around, I think it was the 90s, they mentioned in this article that it started to be advertised heavily towards men in particular, and of course white men in particular, if you've seen some of these ads. I think about a year or two ago, there was this thread on NeoGAF that just showed a bunch of ads from the 90s for various video games. A lot of them did show like ads of guys playing video games and then saying, why would you rather hang out with your girlfriend or play this or something like that, from what I recall. Mostly a whole bunch of usually white children, little white boys or adult men playing these games, and disregarding on a lot of girlfriends in a lot of these ads. And also in in regards to that. A lot of I do also receive a lot of I do recall to see a lot of like I can't think of the word for it right now. Hypermasculinity. Oh yeah, I remember one time when I was in college, I had talked to this girl. It was a girl I was trying to get to know, and I think I mentioned I played video games or something, and then she was mentioning how that's not something she do. It's always been perceived as a thing that only boys do to her. I think that's how it went. Shit. It's been so long ago. I think it was like 2012 when I talked to that girl. But yeah, what I definitely got out of the conversation, though, just to make the point, is that growing up to her, it was always perceived that gaming was a male hobby, that it was something that wasn't perceived as feminine, as something that she couldn't be a part of. In terms of the 90s ads were pretty bad with that. I can't remember calling too much about the 2000s or the 2010s. 2000s I think I'm a bit more familiar with because I was a child throughout all the 90s. So I wasn't really reading a lot of magazines, and I barely remember those commercials that was on TV. From the little I remember from commercials back then, I don't think it was that bad actually. It was just a lot of weirdness from what I remember. Yeah, but another point they want to talk about is like online harassment when playing multiplayer games. I'm not a woman myself, and I don't really interact with any women that play video games, but I've read a lot online about how women just as soon as they hear a woman's voice online, they honestly get some shit up. They get some shit just for being a woman and playing the game, which is some bullshit. And a lot of people just talk it up to being trash talk or whatever, when it's a bit more serious than that. I think I heard some women in particular talking about getting sent messages, talking about what they want to do to them sexually and whatnot. That's just real inappropriate. And I myself, as a black man, I haven't encountered much racism online playing multiplayer games. Now, I don't play multiplayer games that often, and the only times I do is on PlayStation. And for which I heard on around the internet, a lot of that toxic shit you hear from is mostly from Xbox. It's mostly on Xbox Live. But there was one time that somebody just called my username racist when I was on I think I was playing Uncharted 2 back in 2009. I think it was. Yeah. Cause I think my tab, my gamer tag back then was the Black Tabard. Now, I didn't name it that because I'm black. It has something to do with a book I wrote some years ago. But the dude just saw my name and heard my voice and he thought it was racist. But whatever, that was a small thing. But yeah, as I mentioned, I played mostly on PlayStation, and it was mostly just Street Fighter 4 I played online, a tiny bit of Tekken 6 I played online. I played more of that in person. Uncharted 2 and Little Big Planet, but Little Big Planet, it doesn't have, not that many people use mics on that game. And I think the type of people that you'll see acting like that don't really play like platformers anyway. Yeah, but you do get a lot of toxic people. You do get a lot of harassers when playing multiplayer online. And from talking to a lot of people, they just mute people automatically whenever they're playing a multiplayer match with somebody. And I sort of feel the same way. After a little bit from Uncharted 2, I eventually stopped listening to people when mics just automatically mute them. And I started playing Fortnite about a couple months ago. And while I turn on occasionally still just because I want to talk to somebody every once in a while, but if I start hearing people talking shit, or I hear a child, I automatically mute that shit. But yeah. But something else they brought into this, I'd like to point out they had a lot of good interviews, I think, on here from various parts of the gaming community. You have a couple of assistant professors on here, like Kashana Gray. I think she's also black as well. I haven't looked into her yet. Tom Avella, who's a YouTuber. I'm not sure who in particular yet. Khalif Adams, who owns a site called Spawn on Me. And then, as I mentioned, you have Anita Sarkeesian, and you have a few others as well that was interviewed for this. But, yeah, one point they mentioned on this article as regards to Bridget Blodgett. She had a question on there, like, where does this concept that geek men have that they are cultural losers come from? The viewpoint hasn't kept up with reality. White nerds have been in positions. When did you say white nerds? Oh, I think she meant just nerds have had positions of power in Silicon Valley. Nerd entertainment is at the point of cultural dominance, and yet there is still a viewpoint that the individual nerd is a loser. I sort of see where she's coming from, because it is true that nerd entertainment is getting more popular in recent years, but I believe it's just basically more of the surface points of it, in my opinion. Like with Marvel Comics, really, in the mainstream media, it's really just the movies that people seem to care about. In terms of comics and stuff, it's still mainly just a tight-knit geek community, though I'm on the comic community. And I'm not too well versed in cosplay either, but I feel like that might be still just a niche thing. But yeah, but since I don't know enough about that hobby, I don't think I can speak on it. But I do sort of disagree with it. As I mentioned, it's more like the surface parts of the nerd components have gaining more popularity, even though I think there was always there, like Star Wars. I mean, all kinds of people watch Star Wars, but the ones who are really like into Star Wars, I think, are in the minority. People who watch these movies like over and over again, read the comics and any information they get, and do cosplay and whatnot. I still feel like those are sort of shunned. And then there's also the notion that that geeks don't have a tendency to care for their hygiene. There are so many times I hear people talking about how conventions have a smell to them, and gaming tournaments do as well. And Kotaku recently did publish an article, I think it was just maybe last month, about how Smash players don't tend to bathe. And I used to play competitive games myself. It's hard. I think at one point I did remember somebody kind of stinking at one of the tournaments I went to. But also on another note, this year I've been recruiting students to help me develop my first video game. And while I was trying to find a computer science room that I heard that a lot of the nerds hang out and play video games in, I asked this young woman for directions there, and she told me they're in this and such room, but I don't go in there because those people don't bathe. And that's gonna shake my head at that, because I heard that shit so often on the internet. That was my first time hearing it in person. And something else I heard about when I was also recruiting, I was at campus at one school, and there was a lot of people outside near the fountains, and they had a little party going on because they had a DJ out there playing some music. And just as it was winding down, I started to talk to a few people, and this one guy I was asking about, like, where can I find some geeks or people interested in video games that might be interested in work with me, help develop one. He told me, well, you're definitely not gonna find them here. I mean, this ain't really their avenue, bruh. And I was like, but I'm a nerd and I'm out here too. But yeah, I think there's still a perceived perception. Just maybe about 4 years ago, when I was still in college, in one of my Spanish classes, I think it was talking about it was asking me questions about what I like to do in my spare time or something or never, but I don't know. My response was I didn't know how to say it in Spanish. Like, I play video games like professionally, because at the time I was playing fighting game tournaments. And when I said that, when I asked the teacher that, one of my classmates was laughing at me hard in class. So I think there is still a stigma to it, but that doesn't shit. I can't think right now, but that doesn't disregard any of the misogyny that's going on right now with these men in particular. I mean, that's not an excuse at all for you to feel like you're being infringed upon by having people of color and women entering your gaming space. And especially these game companies, they also mentioned on how game companies need to be more accountable for these people that they're allowing on their spaces. So, as mentioned in the article, one person complained about a lot of these toxic people on Xbox Live in the gaming community. And basically, Microsoft just basically told them how to block these people, and what you just end up doing is just segregating them. So they're still going around doing that stuff. They're just in their small closed group rather than just being blocked off from being within these spaces. And a lot of these game companies in general aren't doing anything from getting their employees harassed either. I think there was this trans woman in, I can't remember which studio it was. Oh yeah, I think the person left their identity anonymous so they wouldn't get any harassments. But yeah, that person was getting harassments in the industry for being a trans person in the studio. And basically the company didn't really speak out on these people that was attacking their employee at all. Basically just shoving it under the rug. I believe these companies are doing it because a lot of these people that are playing these games are like that, so they feel like they'll probably be losing money out from these basically piece of shits that's going around harassing these people. But I do definitely think that game companies need to be accountable for not only how they portray people in their games, but also calling out people who are displaying these problematic behaviors in the gaming community, and especially to their employees. But yeah, that was a really good article that Polygon put out. I learned a lot from it, and it did shed a lot of light on some of the problematic parts of this industry. If you have any comments on it yourself, just post a comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Peace.